Tired of serving up the same old tasteless victuals to your family? Step up your grill game with new seasonings from Cloy's Southern Eats. Based off famous Southern recipes, our seasonings will add what's been missing to your family's feast. Add it to steak, chicken, shrimp, you name it. Serving up these fixings is going to make you the hero at home. So head on over to CloysSouthernEats.com and order yours today. Come get you some.
And everybody, welcome to a Hogville.net special. Today, I have got our third guest of the season. I've got Olin Buchanan of TexAgs.com. Olin, I want to thank you for jumping in with me today.
Oh, well, it's my pleasure. I always like to talk to the good folks up in Arkansas.
Same back at you down in Texas. It's been I wouldn't say a hated kinship, but it's been more of a kinship with folks down with A&M going back to the Southwest Conference. Then after you guys entered the SEC, and there's more. It's a really competitive rivalry up until about the last, I would say, 11, 12 years, where you guys have kind of stole the show a little bit and won 10 out of the last 11.
Well, let's be honest. A lot of those games, Arkansas just lost it more than A&M won it. There were some odd Brett Bielema decisions, coaching decisions that helped A&M out. There was some, just having Chad Morris helped A&M out. So even though A&M's won like
a lot of teams.
10 of 11, I think maybe 2 of those were won by a wide margin. And even one of those was because it just got out of hand early. I mean, I'm sorry, it got out of hand late. So yeah. It's never easy against Arkansas. Everybody knows that.
And that's the same thing too with A&M. Arkansas, I feel like between A&M and LSU, Arkansas uses, fans for the most part, uses that as more of a measuring stick on the success of their season, because if they're able to get past an A&M team or an LSU team, that kind of signals that they're trending on the upward scale versus the downward scale. And here lately, it's kind of indicative of what other than the 9-3 season from 2 years ago, it's been kind of indicative of what the Arkansas final results over that 12 games have been for them over that year.
Well, yeah, look, again, I know that Arkansas went through some hard times with some coaches, and, Brett did some really weird things, even in recruiting that helped A&M out. I always said the 2 guys most responsible for Kevin Sumlin becoming super rich were Johnny Manziel and Brett Bielema. And then everybody saw what was going on with Chad, and then but Sam Pittman comes over there, and basically he just brought some common sense, and that's all they needed from the coaching, and they've been a lot better. And even when when Arkansas hasn't had great years, because I thought that 9-win season was borderline great, right? Especially where they came from. There's still a team that you don't look forward to playing because they're sound, and maybe they don't have as much talent as their opponent sometimes. But now they're sound and they're smart and they do things that give you trouble.
Yep. Yeah. And so let's look a little bit at how A&M fared yesterday against Hugh Freeze and Auburn yesterday. I watched the majority of that game. My brother got married yesterday, but I was in the groom's suite watching football. I had my YouTube TV hooked up to the TV, and I was watching games, and we were getting all that stuff and the wedding done, but I was tuning in at the same time because I want to make sure that I'm also putting out my best effort whenever we talk, football for that matter. But yesterday, I felt like the first 2.5 quarters, A&M was trying to gain some traction offensively, but it just didn't seem like it was catching. You start to get a drive, and then it would stall out again. I'm not saying that Hugh Freeze has got the best defense in the world, but I feel like that A&M just was having a little bit of a hard time catching traction.
Well, the first 2 times they had the ball, and moved pretty deep into Auburn's end of the field. And one time, they ended up giving a sack, so they kicked a long field goal. The next time they went right down, and they had a first down at the 12, and got a false start. Then they have a 2nd and 7, and you get a false start. And that has been an issue for A&M. Going back to the Miami game, that game could have been a lot different if not for, boneheaded penalties that have quite frankly been and I'm talking about non-force penalties, that quite frankly have been a characteristic of the Jimbo Fisher coach teams the last 3 years.
And I can honestly say that as a media member that covers Arkansas, we are having the same trouble right now.
Okay.
That's been well documented over the last couple of weeks, and folks are getting a little bit more boisterous with that. So I understand where you're coming from whenever you mentioned that. So final score yesterday, I do believe it was 27-10. Is that correct?
Right. And easily, and I'm sure Arkansas folks can look back at even last night's game and think, why didn't this happen? Easily could have been 40-10. Easily. Mm-hmm. But, you can't keep squandering opportunities, especially when you start playing better teams. Because if they'd squandered the opportunities they had last night against a team like Arkansas, probably in a whole lot different mood today.
One of the things that I did notice, there was a couple of times where the quarterback from Auburn, he was coming off the field, and you could just see the distraught look on his face of he didn't know exactly how he was going to be able to navigate that A&M defense, especially the front seven. And it felt like there was a couple times he came off and he was just fuming mad. And I really feel like the front seven for A&M, it could possibly cause Arkansas some, I want to say, a little bit of trouble that they seen a little bit of what LSU did this last week. And I think that A&M might be able to use some of that and put that into the game plan coming up next week against Arkansas.
Well, first of all, it's going to be harder against Arkansas. Look, everybody knows about A&M recruiting success lately, and they've got that defensive front is sprinkled with 5-stars and high 4-star guys that, quite frankly, hadn't been playing like it. And that Auburn offensive line's, quite frankly, it's a group of 5 all-star team. They've got a tackle from Tulsa. They got a center from, I think, East Carolina, another tackle from Western Kentucky. And so if you can't take advantage of some of those matchups, when are you going to? That also said, A&M showed more pressure and more blitzes than they have all year. And that's been a big criticism of DJ Durkin, the defensive coordinator this year. Is like, what are you doing? You got all these guys that everybody wanted, and you're rushing 3 men and never bringing any pressure to help out, and it was showing. So maybe they were holding on to some stuff until Auburn. Maybe it was because they didn't respect Peyton Thorne's ability to beat them deep. And everybody knows that KJ Jefferson, especially Texas A&M, can beat you deep because KJ's done it on a pretty annual basis for the Aggies. So it'll be really interesting to see if Durkin is as feels as free to bring pressure or to blitz guys. But the fact that he did it opened up some opportunities, and that was by far the best pass rush they've seen all year. They played pretty well against the run all year.
So looking at what happened yesterday with the offense for A&M, I felt like Bobby was Petrino. He was biding his time. They were finding some holes in the defense a little bit here and then. That's one of Bobby's fortes. That's one of his expertise things that he can do, is that he can find places in the defense that he can have those wide receivers sit in those different spots, makes in-game adjustments. And I felt like he was able to do that more effectively towards the end of the game. It's where you started to see A&M start to put up more points. And Arkansas saw that last year whenever they faced Missouri State, because Bobby made a few in-game adjustments to what Arkansas was running, and it caused them a lot of problems.
I thought Bobby was doing fine in the first half. Again, they go down to the 28-yard line the first time they got the ball. Bam, 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 bam. They run maybe a play that was one of those lateral type passes. Bad idea. You lost some yards and you got sacked. Kick a field goal next time. Bam, bam, bam. And then you do all the things we talked about earlier, all the penalties that get you behind the sticks, and they couldn't come up. They couldn't make up for that. So they settle for 2 field goals. And then the next 2 series, they get the ball 3rd and 2. And quite frankly, 3rd and short's a problem for A&M. They cannot push an opponent off the ball.
Mm-hmm.
If they got 3rd and 1 right now, that next week, I'm just going to say, okay, get your punter ready, because they just don't get it. So, and that's less about Bobby and more about, what's going on with your offensive line, your offensive line coach. So, but to your point, they came out the second half and with a new quarterback, because Connor Wigman got hurt. They come up the second half, and Bobby found those holes to get move the ball right down the field, get a 22-yard touchdown pass on the sideline where Jake Johnson was wide open, and then they found a hole in the middle of the secondary, and they threw deep to Evan Stewart for a touchdown, and still moved the ball after that. But again, did things that keep them from just blowing the game open. There's a couple of penalties that erased big plays, and then there was you're down at the 33, first down, and a freshman loses a fumble, and it goes all the other way. So Aggies are really excited and thrilled with what Bobby Petrino has done to the offense, and I think Bobby's influence is undeniable, but it's still on some players to execute things and just, quite frankly, get out of your own way with the bonehead mistakes. But I guess you always got to deal with a certain amount of penalties. It is college football.
It is. And so last night, Arkansas took on LSU, and it was a great game. It really was, from start to finish. You had basically, it was whoever had the ball last was probably going to win it, and Arkansas had an opportunity against BYU to win it. They had the ball on the BYU half of the field, 5 straight penalties. 4 of them were false starts, and shot themselves in the foot. Arkansas again had 11 penalties last night as well for 69 yards. There was one that took them out. It really, honestly, it mirrored the way the A&M offense was running yesterday as well. They had a couple of opportunities where the penalties took them out of close scoring range, and they ended up having to kick a field goal and settle for a couple. And you have to look back and say, it was woulda, coulda, shouldas. But at the end of the day, it was a 3-point loss. They could have. There was a Josh Braun penalty that kicked them back, and and then also there was also the penalty with Nathan Backs, where KJ threw a rope for 49 yards to hit Andrew Armstrong in stride in the middle of the field for a touchdown that was called back too. That could have been the game winner right there.
Sure. And that said, the way KJ was moving the offense, I was kind of surprised there at the end with about a minute to go that Arkansas didn't just say, okay, go score. We're going to let you have the touchdown here, and we'll take our chances trying to force overtime. I kind of thought they were going to do that because it's a chip shot field goal. And I know that LSU kicker is kind of erratic, but still, I was surprised with the, I would have thought that they would have said, hey, let's put it in KJ's hands to see if he can do something instead of just hoping that they'll miss a field goal, because again, they had some success. So I feel your pain. I understand it. It was a great game to watch, especially if you don't have a rooting interest.
Yeah, Sam did mention that too in his post-game press conference yesterday, that him and Travis Williams and Marcus Woodson were debating it quite a lot there at the very end. Now, he didn't have any timeouts, and that's something that I think that them as a staff is going to look at going into next week. But they were honestly talking about it. They went back and forth a few times about, okay, should we go ahead and let him score? Do we, this is what the plan is if we do. And then finally, Sam eventually settled on seeing if the defense can pop the ball out a couple of times, get a strip, get a stop, and then and make them force the issue on them to make a kick versus Arkansas taking the ball back and then trying to march the ball down the field themselves.
Yeah. Sam was in a tough spot. It's like, I don't know if you play in blackjack, but he was in a spot like he was at the table with a 16, and should I go ahead and take a hit or just hold?
That's the worst. And Well, if you're playing third base, also that completely dictates what happens to the rest of the table, and you don't want to be that guy.
Right. So he was in a tough spot. It was like one of those things.
Mhm.
Whatever you do is probably the wrong thing, and you're going to get second guessed. But I personally, from my safe chair, was thinking, I got KJ Jefferson, best quarterback in the SEC. Why not just put it on him? Even with, I mean, it's unlikely that you're going to go down and get a touchdown in a minute with no timeouts, but it's also unlikely LSU is going to lose it, miss a short field goal. But again, there was not a right answer in that spot.
There wasn't. And everybody, I just want to thank again Olin Buchanan from TexAgs.com to join me today on a Hogville.net special here on Hogville.net YouTube Live. And it's also presented by Coy's Southern Eats. Come rediscover the magic of Coy's. Come get you some. So let's look at coming up Arkansas A&M this coming Saturday, 11 a.m. It's going to be an early kick. And you have one of the things that I take from last year's game was KJ trying to go over the top from 5 yards out. Ball gets punched out. A&M picks it up. Then they hand it off to the guy behind him, and then he takes off for a touchdown. Right. One of the wildest plays I saw all year last year.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. Yeah.
I wonder. I always think that Arkansas and A&M, it's always a tight game usually, and I have to think that this year's not going to be any different. Both of the teams mirror themselves, and there's some parallels between both of the clubs that we've talked about so far. I still think that whoever has the ball last is going to end up winning again next week.
Yeah, maybe. I know that, again, I've spoke to it earlier. KJ is kind of a thorn in A&M's side. They've been very fortunate to escape with some wins. I think 2 years ago when A&M lost, I think KJ, I know he had one 85-yard touchdown pass to what's the good runner? Burks, the guy with the Titans that was so good, Traylon Burks.
Yeah, Traylon Burks. Yeah,
so they saw that, and I think he had another long one in that game too before he got hurt, and then helped A&M stay in it. And then last year, quite frankly, it was looking like it was going to be an Arkansas cakewalk, and then that play changed everything. A&M started playing better, and they had some mistakes. They missed a field goal. They had some big plays erased by penalties, and of course we all know what happened. I don't want to bring that up because I know it's going to be a sore subject up there. At the end, that last kick. But that's what I don't know if it's going to come down to a field goal, hitting the top of the goalpost.
Yeah,
but I completely expect that it's going to be a 4-quarter game that in the last 2 minutes. Everybody's going to be biting their nails and holding their breath. And it might be somebody who does something wrong as much as who does something right that decides this game. It's always fun for A&M to play Arkansas. It's not for the faint of heart.
No, it's not. You look at the matchup, too, with personnel-wise. Connor Wegman, was there any update on his injury after the game?
Nothing official yet. I'm just on pure speculation at this point. I don't think he's going to be playing. I think he's probably going to be out a few weeks.
We'll see Max Johnson next week then.
We'll see Max Johnson again. And Max came out and played really well yesterday. And he knows what he's doing. That guy's he has more SEC starting experience from his time at LSU than any quarterback on the roster. And I've always said the main difference is that, Max is a quarterback you can win with. Connor's a quarterback you can win because of. But they have a lot of talent. There's a lot of talent on that A&M offense. And now they've got an offensive coordinator that knows how to use it. So, I don't think A&M can go in there and say, okay, they got a ready-made excuse to lose because they got a backup quarterback. I think you should go in there thinking, okay, you still got an excellent chance to win and against a really good opponent, and don't use your backup quarterback as an excuse.
Yeah, that's one of the things that Arkansas honestly has had the luxury of not having to deal with yet is bringing a starting a backup quarterback in, other than a couple of years ago when they had to bring in Malik Hornsby after KJ got hurt. and that really limited the offense. Now this year they've got Jacoby Criswell, one of the hometown kids from Central Arkansas, that went to North Carolina, then was beat out by Sam May, so he came back to Arkansas. And I'm going to tell you, if something does happen, God forbid, to KJ, I think that Arkansas is in good hands with Jacoby because he's pretty mobile, and he's got. I think personally, I've seen him throw quite a few times over the summer watching practice. I honestly think he's got. I think he's got a little bit more arm strength than KJ does.
Yeah, but arm strength, and you want all these assets you can get, but arm strength is probably the most overrated factor. Does he know who to get the ball to?
Correct.
Can he deliver it accurately? But again, if he's got stronger arm than KJ, then those A&M safeties better be backing up, because I've seen KJ throw it more times than I'd like to see. Throw it deep on A&M and put it right on the money.
Yep.
Boy, that's a good quarterback.
Yeah, he is. The
other guy run like KJ.
That's the thing too, is that he's such a load. A couple of years, not last year, but the year before at SEC Media Days, I was in the suite with all the rest of the media, and I stood beside KJ. I'm not a small dude myself. I go about 6 foot, about 260 pounds. And I looked at him, and he was just broad and yoked. And I thought, man, this guy, I would hate to tackle this guy if he was coming at me with full head of steam.
Yeah, I think there's a whole bunch of Aggies that feel that way too. I'm talking about players because of the success that KJ's had against them. Look, I can't say enough about the respect and admiration that they have for KJ down here. I mean, everybody knows. Like I said, he's the best quarterback in the SEC. Give him some help, and I know I haven't been able to watch a whole lot of Arkansas. I watched the very end of the game against BYU. I watched as much as I could last night, while also trying to keep up with Notre Dame and Ohio State, and Texas and Baylor.
That was a hell of a game. Right?
So, but I don't know that you can go into a game against Arkansas and ever feel like you have the advantage at quarterback. And that's a heck of an advantage for Arkansas.
Got a comment here from Tony Brown. It says, how does Arkansas secondary look against the A&M receivers?
I'll say this. Again, I haven't – you're going to have to tell me more about the Arkansas secondary. I haven't been able to watch the same way I'd watch A&M, right? What I just said about – what I just said about KJ, that you go into a game, and I don't see how anybody can say they have the advantage at quarterback when KJ's on the other side. I don't know that I don't know when I'm going to say a team that match up secondary to receiver is better, and that's not a shot at Arkansas, but better than A&M is loaded at receiver.
Yes, and they are.
I mean, they've got some really good guys. Moose Muhammad. I don't know if you saw the game against LSU last year when A&M upset them, and Moose Muhammad's making one-handed catches for touchdowns. I wouldn't expect Arkansas folks to be watching it, but he can't even get on the field this year. Evan Stewart's really good. He's going to be a high draft pick someday. Anaya Smith, you guys are familiar with him. He's done great things. He got hurt last year against Arkansas.
Yep, sure did.
Great things here for 3 or 4 years. And then they got a kid, Noah Thomas, missed last week because his brother unfortunately passed away. But he's a big 6'6" guy that plays well. And so they got other guys. They're just loaded at receiver. So I don't know. I can't say that it's a prohibitive advantage because I don't see Arkansas every single game. So I wouldn't want to say something out of school, but I would. A&M's going to feel good about its receivers no matter who they play.
Yeah, and they should, because at this point, I mean, with the pedigree that they, with the whole group, or the group as a whole, with the pedigree that they have coming in, you would think that they would at least have a leg up on any defensive secondary that they will be facing, because of the speed and the size that they have when they step onto the field. Another key tomorrow for next Saturday is Rocket Sanders going to be playing. How is his knee going to be faring? He didn't make the trip to LSU this week. Sam thought that he might have a chance, just depending on how it responded to treatment. I think we're back in that same boat again. We'll find out probably more a little bit on Wednesday. And you got Levon Moss that racked up 97 yards against Auburn yesterday. So that's another huge point that you have to look at on which team can establish the run first and effectively.
Well, trying to be completely objective here, I would think if one team is going to has a better chance of establishing the run, it's going to be Arkansas. Mm-hmm. Even if Rocket doesn't play, by the way, I could fully expect him to, not because look, if he could have played, obviously LSU's a big deal. He would have played. Oh yeah. But I'm just saying that's the luck of Texas A&M. They rarely get that break where, hey, we missed that one. It's just luck. But Sam's such a good offensive line coach, and I know they got guys like Limmer, and Limmer playing. Is he still playing center?
Yeah, but Limmer's at center. Yeah.
I was watching that game last night against LSU when I could, and it seemed like there were times when Arkansas just said, okay, we have to get 3 yards. And so everything was attacking right directly behind center and they were getting 4 and 5 and pushing the pile. And A&M's been good on run defense, much better than last year. But that's going to be a problem holding up against those guys. And A&M's, I talked about it earlier. A&M's offensive line, it's talented, but there's a disconnect there. They've got some guys that say, if I block, you tell them block this guy, they can block him every time. But as soon as guys start moving around and stunning and run blitzing, then okay, where am I supposed to go? So I'm just, again, trying to be completely objective. I would think, even though A&M really showed some improvement in the running game last week, I would think that if I had to bet on one of them to establish the run, it would be Arkansas.
That's one of the big sticking points that you had mentioned with, running behind guard, center, guard in that area and then getting 4 and 5 yards. A week ago, Arkansas wasn't able to do that. They were lining up in the pistol, and they needed a yard, and they couldn't even get a yard. I had former offensive lineman Limbo Parks on with me last week, and he said it doesn't matter if you lined up under center in the pistol, 13 yards behind center. He said you should be able to get a yard with the hosses that they have up front, and they weren't. And I feel like the Sam Pittman effect really kind of took over last week during practice, because now you're seeing them fire off the ball. They're getting push on that offensive front. They got to clean up the penalties now. That's kind of where they sit on the offensive line.
Yeah, I as a guy down here in Texas, just looking up at what Sam Pittman has done there, and you just expect them to have good offensive line play. Maybe they haven't always had the same amount of talent, especially at receiver, except for Traylon Burks and some other places. But boy, they're good in the line. It seems like they always are. Look, A&M's been really good against the run this year. Even yesterday, they gave up 144 yards, but a lot of that was real deceiving. If you go back and it was 3 big plays, and one of them was real late in the game when they're just trying to make sure that they don't give up a long pass.
Yeah.
But, that said, A&M their defensive line hasn't had to prove it yet, I think, against an Arkansas a line like Arkansas. Now, look, Miami had a good line.
Yeah.
Supposedly, and A&M played good, strong run defense. So what did Miami do? Started throwing at them. But it's SEC play. It's Sam Pittman. It's Limmer and those guys. So what a great litmus test to see. I mean, this is the midterm final for A&M.
It really
is how good that run defense is.
It is, and I like that. I like how you put that. It was a midterm final for both these teams, because, I mean, if you look at it, after next week, that's halfway point. Or not after next week, but the week after, that's half your season right there.
That's right. It goes by so fast, doesn't
it? It really does. I think one of the things, too, is that the familiarity with both of the teams, with the coaches. And that's why I think you see all these close games in the SEC, too, because you see them on a year in and year out basis. And you just get so familiar. There's not, there is some turnover at the, at the head coaching spots, but not as much as you've seen over the last few years. And when you start to get that, you get a lot more familiarity, and it's almost kind of like the NFL in a way where you're able to kind of, okay, I know what this guy's going to do and this guy's going to do. And it's a little bit easier to game plan whenever you go into those. And I think that's why you see such, close contests.
Yeah. And Jimbo last week, he was talking about, gosh, I'm having a senior moment here. Gus Malzahn. And he was saying, not Gus Malzahn. See, I'm talking Arkansas. I got Gus Malzahn on. Hugh Freeze. He was talking about Hugh Freeze. And he was saying, I have gone up against him in, 6, 7, 8 years, but the apple doesn't typically fall too far from the tree. You are who you are for the most part. Those guys throw some things in. Well, you kind of know what to expect when you play Sam Pittman. And, it's going to be physical, and it's going to be, you're going to come out feeling bruised and bumped and everything, but, you know what you're going to get for the most part. And because, look, we also know that as good as they are running the ball, that, again, got the best quarterback in the SEC. He's going to throw the ball downfield, and he's going to test at A&M secondary because, A, it's been failing a lot of tests this year, especially against Miami, and then, B, they've done it to them before.
Yep. Well, it's getting about that time, my man. I'm going to get you out of here real quick. I don't want to put you on the spot, but are you able to give me a little bit of an idea of what you think might happen this weekend with the final result?
First of all, I'm terrible at all those things because if I was good at it, I'd be living in Vegas.
That's true.
And it's really difficult because again, I see A&M every week, so I see where they're good and bad. I see Arkansas on some highlights in the few, so I struggle. So based on what I've seen, since I've seen A&M every week, I'm gonna pick A&M because that's a team I know, and but it's gonna be. And A&M can score. I think it's going to be a lot like that Arkansas game we saw last night. So expect another one of those. Expect it to be 37, 34, 35, 34, something along those lines. And everybody's going to be tense and worried and biting their nails. And it's just going to be another Arkansas A&M game.
Definitely. And I'll have to say, too, I'm not sure exactly how that apple is going to fall from the tree. Like I said, I still feel that it's going to be a one-possession game. I think it's going to come down to who has the ball last. I can't – I don't like doing this 2 weeks in a row, but I think this is just from an Arkansas guy, and I know this is going to sound crazy, and I'm not a homer. I'm very objective when it comes down to this. And I really think Arkansas is going to have a tough time. I think it's going to be 38-31 A&M.
Maybe, right? I tell you this, I'm not going to put any money on it either way. The only money I would have on this game might be a quarter I'm flipping to see, okay, A&M or okay, Arkansas, heads or tails.
Yeah.
And that causes a lot of trauma and a lot of stress, but it sure makes it a whole lot of fun to be at the game and watching it.
It does, and it helps out the cardiologists surrounding Arkansas and Texas, too.
That's right.
All right. Well, Olin, I appreciate you, man, for jumping on with me today. And I want to thank Coy's Southern Eats for the sponsor. And we'll catch you sometime here. And I'm sure you're going to be popping up either between radio, TV, somewhere like that. And have a good time at the game next weekend, man.
All right. I'll be there. I like your flag. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, Olin. Thank you, guys.